Welcome to the Healthier Tech Podcast, the show about building a healthier relationship with modern technology. Now here are your hosts, R. Blank and Stephanie Warner.
On today's show, we have Kia Davis, principal designer and owner of the Carsyn Neille Foundation, and the first ever Dr. Martin Blank-SYB Scholar. The Carsyn Neille Foundation's mission is to impact and strengthen local families by building and providing a community to families affected by childhood cancer, while empowering and educating them about wellness solutions and sustainable, non-toxic spaces. Kia has become a sought-after sustainable home guru amongst the childhood cancer community. She has also become an in-demand speaker, mentor, and social entrepreneur. I am so excited to share Kia's story with all of you. Hi, Kia. Welcome to the Healthier Tech Podcast.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you again. So we'll get into this in a second, but just so everyone knows, you and I spoke a couple of times before when you had applied for the Dr. Martin Blank-SYB Scholarship, and I was so moved by your story and impressed with everything that you had to say that you actually became the first awardee of the scholarship. And but I haven't spoken to you in quite some time, so it's great to have the chance to talk to you again.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's so exciting and what a blessing you've been.
So let's just get started with some of your backstory so that our listeners can kind of learn the same stuff about you that I learned that moved me. How did you start with the Carsyn Neille Foundation?
Well, in 2013, we lost our daughter. My husband and I lost our daughter, Carsyn, to cancer. Within 5 hours of her diagnosis, she hemorrhaged and passed away in surgery. Really, really quick. As a mom, you grieve. And then at some point you come out of, well, do you ever come out of grief, right? Well, you lift your head and you say, what can I do? Wow, I'm a part of the childhood cancer community. And just from past experience with the way we lived, the way we designed our home, I knew that the knowledge was important for the childhood cancer community in regards to designing sustainable, non-toxic bedrooms for kids with cancer. And so I stepped into that, and that was my way of impacting the child families, loving on families, serving families, and at the same time, spreading Carsyn's story and building her legacy.
And I'm so sorry about that. How old was she?
Carsyn was 4.5 months with the largest atypical teratoid rhabdoid tumor the pediatric neurologist at Rady's Children's Hospital had ever seen in a child that young.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I can understand how you'd go from that experience to wanting to help others, but you didn't actually have at the time any of the experience that you would need in order to help others, right? Or so how did you get from the motivation to help to actually the skill set to help?
So good. Such a good question. I think I didn't have the skill set as of yet, but I was naturally doing things, right? I was the lighting in my home. I knew that was important. But I didn't have an understanding of mold, for instance. So when we moved into our condo, we heard from neighbors that there had been a huge flood years prior and that the owner of the condo didn't properly take care of it. So our assumption to this day has been that we were surrounded by mold, and that had a huge influence of maybe Carsyn's diagnosis and her tumor, her cancer. And so going from there, kind of trying to put all those pieces together in the midst of grieving, I just dove into research, medical journals, books, websites about non-toxic living and how your space can contribute to your healing, your thrivership, and sicknesses. And it just took me on a really amazing and beautiful path of finding out about, all the things that contribute to our quality of life.
And in this foundation, as I recall, there were at least a couple of sets of activities, right? So you would work with individual families to help them
Mhm.
detoxify nurseries and households. You would also go to schools, is that right? And do speaking?
Yeah, we had the opportunity of speaking to medical students at the University of Riverside. They're medical students, and we just really got to talk to students about the importance of non-toxic living, the importance of avoiding EMFs and what that looks like. Um, Plants, right? I'm a huge advocate of bringing plants into your homes, plants that have been studied to naturally purify your home environment. And yeah, we've just kind of been on a journey of educating people and spreading the word as much as possible. And the fun thing about that talk at University of Riverside was that we challenged, right, these new medical students to dive deeper into what they're being taught, right? Ask questions, um, and look at others who have done work in regards to EMFs and how your environment contributes to your health.
I was just going to ask. I'm first of all, I'm deeply moved by your story and how got to this place, and absolutely love that. How you're creating this legacy for your daughter. It's just beautiful. Um, and speaking about getting into schools with medical students who are learning, and they're not necessarily learning this stuff, nor or maybe a little bit. They're kind of hearing a little here and there. How did they receive this information? Were they, really engaging with it, or how did that kind of play out? And what did you see when you were talking
It
about this stuff with them?
it was such a beautiful experience to tap into a younger generation and just try to not necessarily break down the Western medicine um, ideologies or curriculum, right? But to just pose a different question of looking at things differently. And I mean, the students were so receptive. They had so many questions. And it was just a really great, engaging conversation because that's what we did. We approached it not in lecture form, right? It wasn't a huge lecture standing in a, a a bunch of children, but or young adults, I should say. Sorry, but it was it was really kind of creating a space where we could collaborate, right? Where they could ask questions and they could have and then those questions could lead them to the same research that I had done and gone on. And like I said, it's all about questioning. Isn't that what science is? Science is
Right.
all about, hey, there's this study that's been done. I mean, if you look at cigarette smoke, right? That was healthy at one point, but science has changed. And so changing the narrative and changing and challenging them to continue to research and look at different science.
That's great. I have a quick follow-up because so I can actually see younger people, especially now with all the information we have, kind of absorbing and getting in. How did you get into the school? So how did the professors receive this information as well?
Well, I kind of got in through the health. Oh goodness, It's called HOSA. Is it Health Occupation Students Alliance or of America? But it's basically a high school program that teaches that mentors young students who know that they want to go into the medical field in college and in their careers. And so then HOSA basically takes those students and um, mentors them at colleges. And so my work was just became known what I do. And I got a call and an invitation to speak to the students. And I said, Absolutely, let's do it. Let's go for
Wow, that's great.
it."
Yeah, so another part of your practice, and I believe this is part of why you're a foundation instead of just a consulting company, right? Is you help parents detoxify nurseries and children's rooms, but these are parents and families who would otherwise be unlikely to be able to afford this type of service, right? Is that correct?
You're correct. Yeah, we have a good mix of parents from different socioeconomic backgrounds, but for the most part, um, Yes, we really try to partner with families because if you and it's not necessarily that they can't afford it, I would say. I would say more so they've been thrown into becoming childhood cancer parents, right? And let's say mom and dad, it was a two working household, but now mom has said she's no longer going to go to work because she's going to stay at hospital with baby. And so now there's a difference in that income, right? And so we just try to partner with these families in a way that doesn't cause cause a burden on
Yeah, they have
top of what they're already going through.
enough stress to deal with at that point in their lives, no doubt.
Yeah.
So I want to get back to the work of your foundation, but I also obviously would like to ask you about your experience with this scholarship because it was a new scholarship. Like I said, you were the first awardee. And I remember when I was interviewing you, I asked how you found out about it. And you had told me it was through the blog of someone named Stephen Colette, who listeners can go back actually to the third ever episode of this podcast, because that was with Stephen Colette. So, but you had found out about the scholarship through his blog. Stephen is a building biologist who focuses obviously building biology. They focus on a lot of things. I understand one of his strengths is air quality. But I'm wondering, what led you to find a building biologist blog, right? I know you're doing a lot of research, but how did you stumble into that part of the community?
So I had always kind of dipped and dabbled, right? I've always kind of seen different blogs. I think Stephen Colette, I have a book by someone he partnered with. He wrote a book. Is it the Healthy Home book?
I don't know if he wrote that book or not. But I know the book you're talking about, and
Yes.
he wrote the air quality curriculum for the Building Biology Institute. That I know.
Okay, yes. And so I happened to be in the middle of an install, which an install is us designing a room for a child with cancer. And I needed our caulking company. There was a delay. And so I wanted to research a healthy alternative for caulking. And so I'm looking and I'm Googling and searching journals that we've read in the past, and the blog came up, and your picture happened to be there, and I went off on a tangent, right? Like, what is this?
Wow,
And
you saw a
who is
picture of
this?
me and decided to
I
click
did.
through?
I think
Wow.
yes,
Yeah.
and it talked about the scholarship, and I said, oh my goodness, this may be a great opportunity to tap in and learn more and see if I'm missing any areas and studying independently.
No, that was great. And so, then you applied and you got the award, and then you jumped into the program. And for those who don't know, the scholarship is for the Building Biology Advocacy program at the Building Biology Institute. And that, I'm going to summarize this as someone who's never gone through the program, but it's effectively a survey of all of the areas of living that building biology covers. And so if you go through the full building biology program and become a BBEC, an environmental consultant, you would go in depth into all of these things. But the BBA program teaches you from a kind of a 20,000 foot view, all of the different areas of living, right? That the Building Biology Institute covers. Is that how you would describe it as well?
Absolutely, you're absolutely correct. Yes, I really feel like everyone should take the course. Any and everyone interested in non-toxic living should just get a general basic understanding, and they do such a great job at doing that at
Yeah.
educators.
And so what was your experience going? I mean, this is the first time I'm actually speaking to any of the awardees. What was your experience going through the program?
Well, can I first say thank you so much for offering the scholarship? I mean, it's just awesome, right? It's a great opportunity for those of us who are busy, or like for me, for instance, I'd already independently been studying about non-toxic living, but I think I'm a learner, so I always want to know more. And it was just a great opportunity that you gave me to really tap into getting more tools under my belt. But in regards to the experience, it was it was just amazing. There was so much to learn. I have to admit, the EMFs and the technology, I don't think that's going to be my field of focus, but just um, just the layout, right? Very self-guided, lots of tools. They send a book and we get to dive through the book. There's videos, there's different modules, and there's just so much to learn. And then for me, there was so much confirmation in it, right? Of like, yes, I've got this right. Because if you think about it, the internet has so many resources. You can go and look up one study that says, oh, plants are not good for your environment, right? And then you can go to another website and it says, yes, plants. And so it's like sifting through all the information. And I think the Building Biology Institute did a really great job at just saying, this is the information, here are the resources, here are the years of studying. And it was just an amazing program.
Were there any parts of, I understand the EMF might not have been the strongest part for you. Were there other parts, maybe one or two, that really stood out as perhaps most resonant for you and your work?
I want to say all of it, but I know you're asking for
All except the EMF.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of it was really great. But I think when we first tapped in, one of the first things we went over was the creating healthy sleep, like natural sleeping.
The sleep
And that was,
sanctuary.
yes, the sleep sanctuary. And I said, wow, this is because sleep's so important, right? Like it's just so important for our health and for our healing and our thrivership. And for them to cover that, it's like, yes, this is good. If I answered.
No, that's great. Yeah, sleep. So we we haven't talked so much about that here on Healthier Tech, but at Shield Your Body, we've done a few webinars on sleep sanctuaries, also with a building biologist. I understand why that is so important. And before we move on, just to summarize for everybody, if you want to learn more about building biology, again, I'd point you to episode 3 with Stephen Collette, because that was entirely, the entire episode was on the history of the Building Biology Institute and the history of the study of building biology. And it was a really fantastic discussion.
Eye-opening discussion. Definitely. Yeah. I learned a lot in that one for sure.
Yeah. And Stephen's such a great guy. And he connected us without even realizing it. So that's even better. So when you, as you know, having gone through this program, but the BBA program, but even before, you know that creating a healthy home covers a lot of different things. And to do it, right is it's a real effort. On this show, we like to try to summarize a few, key, more actionable points for our listeners, so they don't have to go out and take 6 months and become a BBA, but they can start doing something. So when you start working with a family, are there like a couple of top level things that you point out that maybe our listeners should be thinking about for themselves in their homes?
Absolutely. A few of our favorites, right? Because like I said, these families are in the hospital, um, fighting for their children's lives. And so we try not to bombard them with things like, hey, you should get a water filtration system throughout your whole home, right? Like, right? But we suggest things like, NASA did a study about plants that naturally purify your home and your space. And so we bring in those plants, something as simple as a snake tongue plant, right? Or a peace lily, things like that in the child's environment. Getting your windows clean, right? So you have all of the dust. And when you think of what dust is made of, things like arsenic and formaldehyde and toxins, right? You want to get those screens cleaned, so that you also allow natural fresh air to come into your home. Let's see, organic textiles is big. It's huge, right? When you think about what cotton's treated with, right? Between the pesticides and the chemicals and the dyes or the bleaches. We're really huge on organic bedding, organic pajamas, and then product usage. So we're huge. We're actually partnered with an amazing company called Dr. Bronner's. They
Oh, love
sponsor a
Dr.
lot of things
Bronner's.
for us. We love Dr. Bronner's, right?
Yeah.
Crazy
And so,
labels.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, changing, right? Product swaps. We will actually be doing a post soon about our Comfort Kit program, and our first quarter, we're delivering Dr. Bronner's products to 4 hospitals throughout the nation. And Dr. Bronner's is huge. When families come into the hospital, they get a welcome pack with many different products that are not the cleanest. And so if we can swap out and make those small changes, that's something that we also really talk to the parents about.
That's awesome. And I was looking at your Instagram earlier, and you've mentioned this a few times, just little nuggets here, that you were really into plants and using plants in your environment. And that fascinates me because it's a topic I haven't really heard many people focusing on. And it makes me want to know, like, it's like, what are the best plants for somebody who, not saying myself, but somebody who may not have a green thumb, like, who may forget to water things, or
Cacti. Do cacti count?
Cacti do count, and cacti actually have been proven, or there's been studies shown that cacti actually eat away at EMF. So I usually tell people, if you have cacti and succulents, put them next to your routers or whatever you have in your home that emits those EMFs. It's really good for you. And then this little girl here, she's my absolute favorite. We have her throughout my house, and this is called a snake tongue plant. And I mean, you can ignore them. The soil can dry. Every 2 weeks, I might water it. Maybe every 2 months, I may water it. I don't know,
Ooh,
but
perfect.
it's perfect, and there's so many benefits.
I
Oh,
actually have a couple of them, but they're made of
yay.
plastic. Does that
No,
help?
so I won't lecture you here, but let's get some
Yeah.
real ones. Let's get some real ones, because those plastic plants, right? They bring on dust. They love dust. Dust loves plastic plants. So come on.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, so do you have any exciting news for this year?
Ooh, we do.
Ooh.
So thank you for
I
asking.
like how you started that
Please
answer.
share.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Now, yeah, I'm
Um,
intrigued myself. Yeah.
so an honest moment, right? Last year we had a burnout moment, right? When we started the nonprofit, we started with passion, right? It was totally a passion project. And at some point, as a nonprofit, you want to go from passion project to thriving business, so that you can impact more families, and that we making sure we had a sustainable business model. And so last year we shut down after doing a room install for a young kiddo named Silas in Long Beach. And this year we've come out and we've relaunched, and we have kind of revamped some of our programs so that we can reach more families. And so what may have seen when you and I connected were rooms to thrive, right? And that was us actually going into the homes of families affected by cancer and redesigning their rooms backed by
Mhm.
science. Now we offer a program called community partner events, where we're getting the community involved, and really that advocacy part that the building biology institute was really pushing, that advocacy. We bring that, and we reach more people within the childhood cancer community and outside of the childhood cancer community. And that's something we're really excited about. So this Friday we have a plant people event, and so we're educating people on the importance of plants in their home, and air purification. And in May, we're having a spa event with Poppies in Tulsa, where we get to love on and serve on some childhood cancer moms, and at the same time educate the community on things like light therapy, Himalaya salts, negative ions, and how that can kind of contribute to that waterfall energy, right? And things like that. So
That's great. And
we're
by
really
the way,
excited.
my snake tongues may be fake, but my Himalayan salt lamp is totally real. So, although I
Yay.
will say, for anyone who lives in a high humidity environment, I did not know this before getting mine. Those sweat and melt in high humidity environments. So that's a learned, lived experience. So I'm trying to save. So, Kia, where can our audience go to learn more about you and the Carsyn Neille Foundation?
Oh, well, we have a beautiful redesigned website. It's carsynneillefoundation.org. And our Instagram, we're always updating things on our Instagram. We're sharing facts. This week, we'll be sharing facts about um, childhood cancer disparities. And that's going to be a really interesting post, as well as all things plants this month. And then next month, we'll talk about clean toys, essential oils, diffusing, and just some great stuff. So our Instagram page, Carsyn Neille Foundation.
Excellent. And for those interested in the scholarship, it is a rolling admissions program. So whenever we get in a good, worthwhile application, we accept. So it's not just like a one at a time kind of thing. And you can learn more about that program at shieldyourbody.com/scholarship. And we will have links to Kia's website and Instagram and the scholarship page all in today's show notes. Kia, I want to really thank you first for, I'm just so glad that we met and that you got to benefit from this program. I'm so pleased to hear of what it has done for you and your ability to execute on your personal vision and your personal mission. And I appreciate you taking the time to come join us today for this conversation. It's been a total pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on and sharing. It's just been a lovely interview. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you guys for having me. It's been a pleasure this morning.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Healthier Tech Podcast. Remember to check the show notes for all the links and resources mentioned in the show. Please like and subscribe to the Healthier Tech Podcast on Apple, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice. Get your free quick start guide to building a healthier relationship with technology and our latest information at healthiertech.co.